Okay, let's talk about Snoke. I made a video about um, how The Last Jedi is a pretty bad Star Wars movie, other than the good visuals and some little, nuggets here and there of, the movie being somewhat competent at telling its plot and story. But honestly, the worst part of The Last Jedi is the death of Supreme Leader Snoke. I mean, fans have been spending 2 years trying to figure out who this guy is, where he came from, what is his agenda, all for to essentially be demolished by a very underwhelming scene that does no service to the character. It ruins the character. Rian Johnson's explanation that he there is absolutely atrocious. I mean, you're saying that the main villain, has no point. Um, then where's the tension in this movie? You can make the First Order competent. I mean, the best, unless you're making a very subversive story, which I probably think is what Rian Johnson was trying to do. Um, you need to have powerful villains who make your heroes shine even brighter in the light of their own accomplishments. So, the death of Snoke is absolutely terrible. I mean, you have this confrontation between Rey and Snoke, and it goes nowhere. There's no sense of any danger to Rey. She doesn't really undergo any trials at all. I mean, Kylo Ren essentially saves her from really having to deal with Snoke. Snoke tortures her for a few seconds of screen time, but he doesn't really get into um, Rey like the Emperor did to Luke. Where Luke, I mean, the Emperor Palpatine, he was really digging into Luke's psyche, trying to really get him to turn to the dark side. In this movie, Snoke doesn't really get into Rey. He doesn't really manipulate Rey. I mean, you could say he manipulated her through the Force bond, but that didn't really seem to affect her one way or the other. So, I mean, Snoke's death is underwhelming. I mean, he can't see a lightsaber moving towards him. He's pontificating, and yet he gets killed by Kylo Ren so easily. It would have been something if he had been killed. That was only a projection of him, and he came back to life. Maybe at the Battle of Crate, to put Kylo Ren back in line and to reassume control of the First Order. But that didn't happen. We get a very laughable scene where Snoke's body is literally coming apart at the seams, and Hux is looking at him, and he's like, now I'm in control now. And then he sees Kylo Ren on the floor. He picks up his blaster, and he gets ready to shoot Kylo Ren, but Kylo Ren gets up. There's no tension. There's no stakes. Everything is subversive and deconstructionist. It's a waste of our time. So, in all honesty, Snoke's death, for me, is one of the worst aspects of this movie. I'm going to talk about other bad aspects of this movie. But if you're going to have a villain who is constructed in this mysterious way in The Force Awakens through these holograms, and he's shown to be this very intelligent, conniving Darksider, well, what happened in The Last Jedi? It literally takes place right next to the first film in the sequel trilogy. It makes no sense. It detracts from the movie, and it makes it worse. So anybody who says that Snoke was properly treated in this movie, let me tell you this: for you to have a good story, you need to have antagonists who you can root against. Because the thing is, if you do not, what's the point of trying to make there out to be stakes when there are none? Your villains have to be as strong as your heroes. And that is why The Last Jedi is the worst Star Wars movie.